Do 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 do.
The show's not having a cold open, so we shouldn't.
But I was about to talk to you about the lyrics that people have put into the song. It's Marky's cool, Haley's cool, Irving's cool, Dylan's cool. That's what they're doing. They're putting that into the theme tune, so now I can't hear the theme tune without hearing those words, which I'm both happy and devastated about. It's both funny but awful at the same time. Mark, you clearly think it's awful.
The show or the or the lyrics?
The lyrics.
I just think it should be Severance, Severance,
Oh,
Severance.
Yeah. But then, I like the names and everything. I just don't like cool's a bit sort of random, isn't it?
I wouldn't
like,
be using cool to describe
No.
a lot of people in this show.
no. Anyway, penultimate episode of our Severance.
I was going to say, there's not another episode. Did you just think there was another episode of the show?
No, not of Severance, but of our Severance Series 2 Instant Reaction podcast. Because, spoiler alert, we're coming back for one more. We're going to do a roundup after this. We're going to talk about Series 2 as a whole, and we're going to discuss some of the feedback that we've had from you lovely listeners.
And not just because I'm just back from Las Vegas and tired and you're going away tomorrow.
I'm going away tomorrow.
So I'm editing this, so if you hear any like wacky sound effects in the background, it's probably me just trying to annoy Elaine.
Moing.
Whack, whack, oops.
So yeah, let's crack straight on. Instant reaction. I am still buzzing. How are you feeling about it?
I'm buzzing.
You're buzzing in a different way.
Sense of turn. Like, I am 80% delighted with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have to dig into that. I'm 100% delighted with it. I'm 110% delighted. There you go. Bit extra.
Sorry, we just need to stop there. So,
Uh-oh.
Elaine, you refuse to use the term anything above 100%
Yeah.
at any given time.
I know. I've broken my rule this once. I don't like to give anything more out of 10 than 10 because it's 10 out of 10. Like, it's out of 10. But this I would definitely give like 11 or 12 out of 10.
So I quite often ask Elaine how much she loves me out of 10, and then I'll shrug and say, well, I love you 487 out of 10.
Doesn't make any sense. 10 out of 10. Anyway, can we put that to one side and talk about the show? So you have some quibbles.
I have some quibbles. And I this is again going down the rabbit hole of, if I didn't have to analyse this episode on a podcast, I would probably be happier with it. But I feel that there is some issues with the writing. I feel there is some issues with the answers that we are given in this show. I also have issues in that there is something in the back of my mind that I have been thinking about all season and haven't mentioned on a podcast, and is now coming definitely to the fore.
Right.
And I am fuming that I did not mention this earlier. Although I suspect that you're listening to the podcast, so it's probably been brought up at certain different points and probably well thought of amongst, because it's just that this show is certainly part of it, is becoming this thing.
You're going to have to say it now.
Okay.
What's going on?
So all the way through this season, I've had the Stanford Prison Experiment in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You're nodding, so I assume you
Yeah.
know what it is, and B, other people have mentioned it.
I'm nodding because I'm an academic that does research methods. So the Stanford Prison Experiment, where two groups of people, one set is a set of guards in inverted commas, one set is a set of prisoners in inverted commas, but actually it's not really going on, it's not real, and inevitably
whoever is assigned the prisoner rebels against and
the guards always treat the prisoners really badly, even though it's not real. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know this from from research methods. I know this from the Channel 4 remake of it in the late 90s.
It's so big. Like, obviously I know it from academia, but it's so big, it's transcended that. And it's one of those experiments that are spoken about in terms of ethics. So it's a really big ethical conundrum and issue.
And obviously that's been in the back of my mind all the way through. But then when we are seeing Mark Scout ask Marquez to sacrifice himself, and you see that look in his eye, you see that he is being asked to do something that, it is the the people with the power rebelling and just expecting that he would accept
Yeah,
this on
yeah.
the grounds, oh, you know how it is. And then, yeah, there is that power dynamic, and it is the people underneath rebelling against that.
Because the power dynamic that we've been concentrating on throughout the whole of the show, season 1 and season 2, is the power between like Milchek and Cobell and the innies.
Yes.
We haven't seen the power dynamic to this extent between the outies and the innies. And I found myself being really annoyed with outie Mark.
Yeah.
I found him quite repugnant.
Oh, I mean, that is meant to be. I think there is a note here. Mark is turning heel here.
Yeah, totally. You were not on his side.
No.
You were, and I know that Innie Mark is obviously coded as young. He is very naive. He's so excited to see his outie. It's almost like he's meeting a celebrity at the beginning, and he's excited to talk back to him, and it's like really, really good fun until you can see he's just started looking at him and going, God, this guy's a bit of a dick.
There's a darkness behind the question. And Mark S is right to. And this is I mean, I've been on Mark S's side all the way. Can I just remember this? There is, I mean, that is an excellent that scene. I mean, what a scene between Mark and it. In the wrong hands, that could have been so cheesy, that back and forth.
Or drawn out, because once
Yes.
I realised that it wasn't just going to be a one-er, like, oh, you speak to me, I speak to you, and we're all sorted.
Yeah.
Because I didn't expect it to go this way. I thought it was he was going to talk to his innie was going to be on, and then the mission would go ahead, and off we were. It took a turn that I genuinely did not see coming for lack of imagination. But the fact that it was going backwards and forwards and back, and I think the editing was so clever. I was watching it and I was thinking, right, how are they going to make this not boring? Where, oh, we're outside again. Oh, we're inside again. Oh, we're by the fire again. You know, it was so, it got quicker and quicker as we went along so that your attention stayed with what was happening. I thought it was absolutely brilliant and not what I expected from the start of this episode.
My issues, do you want to get onto my issues?
Yeah, go on.
My issues are, well, twofold. One is that in the writing of this, there has just been numerous times where I'm like, oh, that's just too much of a coincidence. Like,
give me an example.
So the fact that Helly, without any knowledge, just so happens to have the directions to the elevator under her keyboard.
She had that last time?
Yes, I know. That's a coincidence. It's nothing to do with this mission that she just pulls this out and goes, I've got the things here.
I think you're being really harsh with that. I think that's really built up. She goes and finds it behind the painting of it's not a painting, it's a picture of Dylan. She has it on her desk. She's going to go and do it. She is learning it. She's learning it for herself. I think she's going to go and find it.
This is the problem. She doesn't know that Mark's going to come in and need to get to that, and it's just, oh, I've got this here.
No, but that makes it even better for me. It's not like she's saying, oh, let us go to the room and find it for you. I felt like it was a really good bait and switch where you think she's going to go and find Gemma, but actually in the end she doesn't need to because he needs to go and find her and she's got it there to give it to him.
It didn't work for me. Are we? My fear is that we are just saying the entire goat story was the reason was there. Sewed in, and the big mystery of the goats was there, so Gwendolyn Christie could be there to beat up Mr. Drummond. I love that. I love the way that, you know, that one scene that we got with the goat people, mammalians, nurturable, was all about these people who the whole thing in their life is to look after these animals, and yet we discover that they are forced to sacrifice the animals that they love. The comparison with children has to be there. You know, that you take a young animal and you have to sacrifice it, and it's clear that this has happened over and over and over again. Now Mark and Helly, not the innie Helly, but Mark and Helena pretending, coming into their space and talking about Miss Casey and talking about what's happened has clearly had this reverberation, which we then see in choreography and whatever. I can't remember what they're called. I think it's choreography merriment at the end. This is having a reverberation throughout all of the departments, and I love that came back, and
and I know what you're saying is, oh, isn't it like coincidental, and isn't it perfect though? But that's just, to me, is writing. That's like, can you imagine if we just hadn't seen, we were moaning about not seeing them, oh, we're never going to see them again. I was like, yes, this is it. And I thought that she would take the gun. I thought she was going to change her mind and take the gun and shoot Drummond in that scene, because you can see the impact this trauma of having to kill these animals over and over again is having on her. So I love that scene, and I was cheering Gwendolyn Christie all the way.
I just wanted something cooler. I want if you've built this up for a season and a half, why are the goats there? I want it more than a big woman who can beat up Mr. Drummond next to Mr. Drummond when he's beating up Mark.
I think that's very unfair. I really think that's unfair. I think it's a really interesting dynamic, because you've got a woman there in, and coming to save, one of the male characters, so there's that gender dynamic, but also I think Gwendolyn Christie's character is so, there's so much to her, even in those small moments that we see. And this whole thing about the sacrifice, it really, really works for me on a thematic level.
Okay,
we're going to have to agree to disagree quite a lot.
We are on this, yeah. And I'm picking because there are things that annoy me about this episode. I think it's an excellent episode and absolutely what I want. The other thing that I have is we have built Cold Harbour up to be this thing all season. I'm still not entirely sure that was paid off to a satisfactory amount.
Yes,
and
I see what you mean with that. Yeah.
And people are, we've been told for the last 2 episodes, once Cold Harbour is done, Gemma is dead. Why? Why is she dead?
And that it's a world, like,
yes,
the world will now, the only thing I can think of is when Mark says, I've done like 24 files, that they're able to come out and say, we can make 25 innies where Severance holds. But that, to me, doesn't seem to be this world leading thing, because you've already done 24.
Yeah. Why is this so phenomenal? And this might be something that's revealed in season 3.
Yeah.
However, it feels to me like this show is going to take a huge tangent in season 3. It's going to have to.
It has to.
And I'm not entirely sure that I care what Cold Harbour is anymore. If that, how are they going to reveal that to me in a satisfactory way? Isn't
it difficult though? Like I'm on the show's side, but I'm also saying, isn't it difficult though, once you've set something up as being, this is going to change the world, everyone's going to die at the end, like they were going to get rid of Mark, they were going to get rid of they don't need the innies anymore once Cold Harbour is complete. That's such a big thing to then have to find something to hang your hat on. And I knew it would be something I've in my brain, I have said I knew it would be something to do with the loss and child loss, because it had to be something, the reason we were shown all of that. But if it's just, you lost children, I think she said multiple miscarriages, you've lost children, you're grieving this life that you haven't got, and your innie doesn't know that, I think you could have done that from day one.
Yeah.
You could have just put her in a room
number 25
with a cot.
Why is she writing out Christmas thank you letters?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why is she on a plane that's going, all of these things. And I know it's meant, maybe it's they kept saying the efficacy, and they kept saying it's holding, as if to say, well, she's had so many of these other innies. But that, I agree with you. I don't see why that's such a big deal.
Yes.
That does not diminish my enjoyment of the show. I think that's just something that, like you say, the show will reveal in due course, and it may work for me and it may not. I'm not going to sort of take a lot because I think it's such a phenomenal show.
I think you're putting more trust in this show than I am, because I said to say I've been cooler on this show all season than you, and this was the time to reveal why this is such a big thing. This was the arc that goes through the entire season. We're moving on now. Like and my worry is, and can't review what the TV show is and isn't. My worry is that we are going to go all Westworld season 3 on this.
I mean, that's always there in the background, isn't it? Yeah.
We have to go back to the seventh floor.
Go back.
Yeah. But no, I think the whole mission I think was excellent. I feel the show, and this is not just an issue with this episode. I think sometimes the show gets a little bit too happy in its own weirdness. And I think Defiant Jazz really worked. I think the marching band was a little bit too much for me and lasted a little bit too long. And
I think I was about 50-50 on it. I think I was laughing and I was excited because I was seeing Milchet dance. So that little bit of my brain that was like, oh, he's dancing again, brilliant. And he's doing it. It's dark dancing, and I really, really wanted to. And he's got one of those batons, and so anything like that. I mean, it's deep camp, but it's also incredibly dark, and those two things make my brain fizz. I thought it was really interesting that this would probably be the most people that they've ever seen.
Yes.
You know, all in that really, really small space, and how that now we've been shown another department as well. Another department that's clearly just so robotic. They weren't even responding to when they were like slamming the door or pushing the thing. They were it was so like entranced until they started talking to them. So I'm 50-50 on it, because sometimes you just have to I see what you're saying. You have to have one thing, don't you? And everyone loves Defiant Jazz, but if you keep doing Defiant Jazz again and again and again, it's going to get tired.
And finally, do you remember when Irving got in a car with Bert?
Yes, I do.
Not sure the show does.
What do you mean? Well, yes, they did. Yes, he did. He got in the car with Bert.
And
I don't understand this question.
And next, what's happening with that plot?
Well, Irving's gone on a train.
Yeah, but
Bert's sitting at a train station. Gone home for some lovely lunch.
I thought there was going to be more to that.
Nah, I said that last episode, that I thought that was the end for this series. I got it. We got into a tangle last time. I remember this. So
I was very tired last time.
And no, it was about Miss Wang.
Yes.
That I didn't think we would see her for the rest of this, but I felt the Irving that I wonder whether John Turturro is going to come back. It'll be interesting because he talks a lot about Severance, sort of out in the world, and whether he talks about sort of series 3, series 4. Be interesting to see whether he's coming back. But I really felt that there was a line drawn there, and maybe series 3, series 4 is about going and finding Irving. But I didn't think he would be coming back. But I tell you who I got really, really excited to see, which was Dylan. And yes. I loved that conversation between him and his outie, which was clearly a mirror of the conversation between Mark and his outie, Mark Heston, and his outie, and the difference between, and the accommodation that they had found together, and it's still about the love of a woman. Yeah. You know, like, I love this woman. I want her to, you represent the best bits of me, and maybe together. Badass. Sorry?
He's a self-assured badass.
Yeah. I mean, and the way they talk to each other is very, very similar. They talk in their own language. The fact that he was writing it down rather than the video, I thought was very interesting, and he was left alone with his, and he could see the writing, he could see the way, it wasn't the neatest, and it gave him I think that the way that it was written gave a real indication as to outie Dylan as well, and I love that. But the shame for me, and I know lots of people have said this across their reviews, is that everyone's very invested in that storyline, and it's been given very little time compared to the rest of the thing. But you can't fit everything in, can you? It's difficult. Although I can hear people screaming, but you can do a whole episode on Cobell.
Yep.
You could have fitted it in there. Yeah, I know, I hear you.
I feel like part of me halfway through was thinking, I wish, obviously this is an episode of 2 halves, and I wish that the first part had been kind of interspersed within a penultimate episode where we have the Mark meeting, and we didn't just have the she's alive ending. Having said that, I think this is a better than perfectly fine season finale. So, and let me make that very clear. But
I think it had this real propulsion. So I know you had that long scene at the beginning between the 2 Marks, but that was edited really well, as I said. But every moment I was going, right, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? It was movement. There was action. Dylan threw the, big portrait on the
I want that portrait above our
isn't it
sofa.
amazing? Yeah, let's do that. We've always thought, what are we going to put above the sofa? We've never put anything there for fear of it falling on our small child, who isn't so small anymore and probably could reach it and pull it down. But yeah, I've always thought we'll have something there. That's it. That's what we're going to have.
Works for me.
What's it called? The exalted something of.
Oh, I didn't write it down.
Of Cold Harbour.
So,
There was something. Mark, you can't possibly have not written it down because you picked your phone up every 2 seconds in this episode.
I think
to
at the
make
start
notes.
I did, and then I think as it went on, I
Was it when I told you that your phone was annoying me? Was that when it stopped?
no, because that was
No.
people texting me.
Okay.
That was people texting me that you were annoyed at.
So also annoyed
Chilling
with the
vision of
lyrics.
my life. It's, So Gemma's floor.
The testing floor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of the Crystal Maze.
Yes. Yeah. Like, which room are you going to go in, and which? What was it? There were like there were sectors, weren't
zones.
there? Zones. That's it.
There was. It reminds me of either the future zone,
Mhm.
futuristic zone,
Yep.
or the industrial zone, because the Aztec or the medieval zones.
Yep.
They
My
kind of had-
favourite.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
No one likes that.
Oh,
the
come on,
best.
it's me. I was going to call it the historical zone.
They kind of had holes through the where people could shout through.
Yeah, because shout through.
Like you could poke the head in and see what the thing was and give them a
Mhm.
hand. But the futuristic and industrial, later oceanic zone, you had to stand outside and bang on the door and everything like that. That's
Good.
that. I've got nothing else to
You
add
got
on
nothing.
that.
You know, people can now go and play the Crystal Maze, and like there's like a Crystal Maze experience.
Oh, you mean that's
where
a
you
new
just
thing,
get to
innit?
jump up and down in a sphere and grab.
I think we've talked about
notes.
this on the podcast before.
Have
because
we?
the thing that I know about the Crystal Maze is that virtually every single one of the final games, it wasn't a real reenactment, because in actual fact,
Yes.
the
that's right,
the
I
silver
remember that.
tokens and gold tokens
Yeah.
mostly just stuck on the floor, so
Stuck on
everyone
the
just picked them
floor.
up and
Yeah.
picked them up and posted them through, and so they had to make them film jumping up for things.
I do remember you saying that to me.
I don't know if it was on the podcast or just in
Possibly
real
on
life.
the podcast.
Probably both and multiple times.
Hey, we've done nearly like 200 episodes now. We can
Yeah.
repeat ourselves.
You can do Risk Across the World experience
I
now as
saw
well.
that, yeah, but I
Not-
don't understand how
Not
that
quite
works.
sure how that works. Yeah.
No. But yeah, the testing floor is interesting. I don't think we'll ever be going back there again. I loved the imagery of Mark coming out of the lift with the blood all over him, and at one point he was holding the gun, but they didn't linger on that, and I can understand why. But you know, that image, because we're so used to seeing Innie Mark in his suit, perfectly reasonable, bobbing along the corridor, you know, if you think back to series 1, where he's like this very, very affable manager, he's just been promoted, he's making his team do that, and then to see now him on that testing floor covered in blood, having murdered indirectly Mr. Drummond. You put your hand up, Mark.
Yes.
You've not done that before.
That wasn't any mark on the testing floor. That was outie mark.
Oh, it was outie Mark. No
But
wonder you put your
yes,
hand
I
up.
get your point.
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, do you know, like, we're so used to seeing him in that suit in a very yeah.
And a brilliant touch of the twitching of the switching
Yeah.
makes him hit the hit the trigger.
Poor
and
Mr.
kill
Drummond. I
Drummond.
did not like him as Mr. Drummond. Poor Derry Olifson. He was lovely in that show that I can never remember the name of. I'm sure it was like Trapped or something like that, or Trap. Anyway, he was lovely in that. If anyone wants to see Mr. Drummond as a much nicer character, as like an affable policeman who's very, very good at his job in Scandinavia, then go and look up what he's done before and find the name of it, because it was brilliant. I loved it.
Well, that's a recommendation.
It was. I think it changed title because of the.
Is it Somebody Somewhere?
No, it's Trapped or Trap or a word like that. It's it's in a part of the world where I think it's a part of the world where I could be remembering this wrong.
Trapped.
Where you can't like get off. You know, it's a bit like if you're on an island or something, but I don't think they were on an island. Anyway, I don't know.
You can't
Or maybe you get
you're-
snowed in. Maybe that was it. It's something to do with the weather.
Was it not?
It was very good.
in the remote town of Iceland, police desperately try to solve a crime. As a powerful storm descends upon the town.
Iceland storm trapped. There we go. I got there eventually. So yeah, I'm happy Mr. Drummond's gone. Shame we didn't get to see his Frolic tattoo or any of his other tattoos, or understand why he had Frolic on him anyway.
Again, it's, feels like a kind of unfulfilled plot point.
What did you think of the reveal that the numbers are the tempers and it's Gemma's mind? I still don't get that.
I mean, it's as good of an explanation as we were going to get, that they were actually building the personalities that they put into Gemma to... They
were building her innies.
Yes.
Is that what I'm meant to take from that, right?
I mean, that's a fine explanation. I'm actually happy with that. I think that actually pays off and it ties in with the plot. Like, as previously said, the Cold Harbour reveal has been largely disappointing. So, some of it worked, some of it didn't. What did you get on the reveal that Lumen can apparently make sentient waxworks?
That's the bit of that side of the show that I really like. And when it gets a bit wacky, but not so wacky that, you got a whole marching band coming in, that rings true because they've had the waxworks before. We've heard about the other Lumen industry people saying, I didn't have a waxwork. Mine was like, the first team that came in Bob Balaban, and they were talking about what they had in their like section where all the waxworks were. I was happy with that. Once again, poor Milchek being told off for his language. I wondered who was doing like the voice, and I wondered if it was all scripted, or because it just didn't. That whole bit at the end about Keir being 5 inches taller than he actually was, and that just didn't. Seemed a bit strange.
Well, this is what I don't get. I mean, the thing is that the storyline leads you to believe that Mr. Milchek is rebelling against the waxwork of Keir and not taking his bullshit. But then the waxwork of Keir apparently can react to that.
It's almost like an AI.
Yes.
Rather than like a pre-recorded or some... Because I thought it would be like someone behind the scenes, like Drummond, but...
And this actor, as I sit here record, I have IMDb open because I am shit at remembering people's names and actors' names. And this actor who plays Keir has been credited on virtually every single episode. Sometimes just credit only. Yeah. Like, he was credited on every single episode of season 1, but only appeared in the In Perpetuity episode.
In perpetuity. Yes.
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 This chilling vision of my life. And he's been credited on every single episode of this season, but only had his voice in 2 episodes.
Okay. So my feeling with that is he's going to appear in real life in some maybe flashbacks, or because why are they using this guy's image?
I mean, that's the fear, isn't it? That's where it goes to.
Well, I don't think it's fear. I love flashbacks.
I mean, if I tell you that he also looks a hell of a lot like Keir.
What, in real life?
Yes, that's him.
Yeah. So yeah, well, he would do, wouldn't he? Like if they've based it off a person.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying, he's only used his voice in this so far, so that certainly is what. And I've had that in the back of my mind all the way through.
Is he going to pop up somewhere?
It seems likely, doesn't it?
Because you've got to go. I suppose you've got to go somewhere, haven't you? You can't. We're not going back to. I mean, they are stuck on the severed floor. I don't know where they go from here in terms of the jump, but I didn't know how they would do that at the start of this series either. So I could tie myself in knots thinking, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next?
And then the ending.
I'm very, very happy with the ending. I actually thought it could be, if this was just finishing in 2 seasons, that would be a perfect ending altogether, notwithstanding all of these sort of loose threads that we've got. I thought that was such an interesting thing of the choice of...
And we get the action shot ending of
the running
Mark and Helly running together. Did you notice that it also went into the sort of grainy film that we saw previously? And Windmills Over My Mind.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that song?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Thomas Crown Affair.
Thomas Crown Affair, yeah. Which obviously a big heist movie.
Yes. What are you thinking?
I don't know what that means.
Well,
but
no, neither do I. I thought you had an idea then.
No. But
You were listing off things, and I was like, oh, he's
I was
building
hoping.
up something.
I was hoping you had something.
No,
but
I haven't got anything.
I mean, we last saw this grainy effect, which looks kind of like a French, like 70s film in the Gemma flashback episode, and I don't quite understand what it means.
No, neither do I. I feel it's quite deliberate. It feels like they know.
It'd be weird if it was accidental.
No, but you know, like sometimes
Shit,
people do.
We left these two bits of film next to a magnet.
You know what I mean. I think because they know there's going to be a third season. I think they know what's coming. They can put these flourishes in order to impact on the next series. That's the only reason why I feel there's part of me that feels like I'm in semi good hands, because it's not like I'm going to rewind it and reverse all of that, but they know where they're they're not thinking, oh, I wonder if we're going to get another series. Oh, we're not. So, we had so many things that we were going to do. They know they're going to get another one. These things will come back into play, you would hope. You're not convinced, I know that.
No. I think we've just seen so many of these shows. Like, we've often referenced Lost, and
I mean, it wouldn't be an Inspiration podcast on this without mentioning Lost.
I
thought we might get away with it. Having
rewatched Lost, I can confirm that some of the plots in season 6 were a bit shit.
But still, I think we're being really quite harsh with this show. I think we're expecting so much of it and every episode to be phenomenal. Whereas when we rewatch Lost, we are happier and we get away with it. And I think there's a sense of real nostalgia and almost like, oh, it's this episode. There isn't that sort of like pulling it apart, or I don't know. I think we've put Severance on this pedestal that it deserves, but that also has an impact if something little happens that isn't quite what you want. Because when I think back to shows like, look, I was reading all the stuff, I was listening to all the podcasts, but I never felt angry about what was happening or disappointed. It was just more of, oh, that wasn't an episode that I particularly enjoyed, and I want to get back to this island, or I want to be back mainly
Jack on a Thai beach.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's a really, really good example. This, I think, is so phenomenal and so well put together. And I think the other thing as well is that Ben Stiller and Adam Scott have been very open about their process as well, much more so than I've seen other showrunners and actors and executive producers, and have really got into the nitty gritty of it. And that's almost opened up these conversations around the show, and I think it's invited some very, very deep and thoughtful discussions around it. But I think also sometimes we forget, and I'm guilty of doing this, but I've seen some very, very vitriolic reactions to episodes of television that people just didn't care for. And I think we can criticize and we can say that's not for me without going down that route. And I think that's happened a lot around this show. There just seems to be it seems to be deeply emotional, people's connection with this show, which has led to some of these very strong and and very vitriolic, this is the worst, that binary sort of, oh, I'm never going to watch it ever again. And like, it's just telly, and it's great telly. And I suppose that's what I think when I read that sort of stuff. I just think, this is brilliant telly.
I think the show puts itself out there and it takes swings, and there is always a fear that this show will disappear up its own arse, because it does take these wild, surreal swings, and it is a real fine line between brilliant storytelling and the worst end of a David Lynch ripoff, where with someone fresh out of art school and deciding to make a surrealist film. we've all seen them. And things work for me and things don't. And I'm sure that if we didn't have this podcast, I would just be able to let it just wash over me.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
No, but I don't
think you'd still talk about them. You'd still have these quibbles.
No, but I don't think I analyse TV as much in the real world this year. I think I just let it wash over me, and that's it. But I feel that having built up what is Cold Harbour for the entire thing, it just to be the cot that that Mark and Gemma had for their child that they lost was. Let me put this on the table that I have quite a problem with. I think it's quite a lazy thing, and it's probably down to us and our history that using child loss as something to gain an emotional reaction from someone, I feel can be quite irresponsible, especially when you know that it's going to hit home with so many people who are watching this.
Yeah.
There is no trigger warning at the beginning, and I understand.
You understand they don't want to because it gives the game away, but
there is that danger. There is that danger of, is it trying to pluck an emotional string for the sake of plucking an emotional string? So that puts me against it. And secondly, I just don't think it's as interesting as they think it is. Having built, we were having debates at work. What do you think Cold Harbour is? What do you think Cold Harbour is? And I want it to be something cool, and that wasn't something cool to me.
I wonder, and I didn't think we'd get into this, but let's get into it. I wonder if you haven't been through that situation like we have, that this would, if we hadn't had our experience, I wouldn't think twice about that. I would just go, oh, wow, yeah, of course, that must be really awful to lose a child. Like I'd be like, yeah, that is. Whereas our experience, I think you realise that things like a cot or putting a cot up or buying something, those aren't the moments of despair or emotional, it's much more nuanced than that and much more complex than that. It's not one single item that triggers a memory or an emotion, though you would expect that to be. I could understand that people would think that if they hadn't been through it, and it will be for some people. There will be some items that are that are very important to them or very trigger. I get triggered by double buggies, which is as someone who's had twins and then one of the twins hasn't survived, that for me is like my and that people might think, oh, that's a bit weird because you're going to see them all the time. So I can understand what they're saying, but that's like every now and again, whereas day-to-day living with child loss is so much more complicated than, oh, I've seen a thing.
Yeah.
That day-to-day is incredibly complicated and nuanced. So I agree with you, and almost, but it's not really a review of the show. It's more representation of child loss in television has a long way to go, I think. It
doesn't feel like something that it didn't affect me in any way.
No, me neither.
It didn't affect me in any way, that section. So if that's what they were going for, as someone who... Sorry, why are you laughing?
Yeah, I know. I was about to explain why I was laughing because everyone at home would be like, why is that woman laughing? I'm laughing because you're saying it didn't affect me at all, and I said, no, it didn't for me, because you instinctively went to hold my hand when the cot came on. And, and I just went, no, I'm fine. And then had a moment where I thought, oh, hang on a minute, autism here. Let's think about the other person. And I went, are you all right? Do you need your hand holding? But we were both fine, and normally these things, if they are true and they feel true and emotional, I will get quite upset about it. It will rock, the memory boat.
And that, do you know what, we might have just unpacked why I am absolutely so cold about this episode.
Because
whatever that was, I don't think it worked for me.
Yes, that makes total sense.
I think we've just unpacked my psychology here and why I was disappointed with it. But again, even if I was in floods of tears, I don't quite understand why that's the thing that they're building up towards with Gemma. And
it still doesn't know why this is this world-leading thing.
Why is this the greatest day in the history of
why
this
are we
planet?
making portraits of everyone?
Yeah,
in a big mural. Yeah, I think after having that discussion, we'll draw it to a close.
Yes.
But we will be back. We're gonna, I'm gonna go to Snowdonia, and stand on a mountain and have a big hat.
All right, Savage Garden.
No, what do you mean? What's Savage Garden?
I'm going to stand with you on a mountain.
Oh,
I'm going to
something with you in the rain?
sing with you in the sea or something.
Yeah. I'm going to lay like this forever until the sky falls down on me. Not a great lyric.
I once got booed off on karaoke for singing that song.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, is this a terrible memory?
No. I quite enjoyed it. I was on holiday.
Oh.
No
Why
one
would you go for Savage Garden, love? That's
it was 1998. It had a few
that's
beers.
That's a hard choice, that. He's got a very high
I
voice.
wasn't necessarily thinking. At least it wasn't that. What's the awful one that they did?
The one with I believe in karma, what you give is what you get
returned.
The one where he puts his hand in a
In a
little
diamond
heart.
shape.
Well, no, it's a heart, isn't it? He's doing a heart.
I don't think it is. I think it's a diamond.
Oh, I think it's
As
a
we
heart.
established, you can't do a heart.
No, I can't do a heart. But I genuinely think he's doing. I think he
Is it
does it all the
absolution?
time.
No.
That
No.
sounds right.
No, it's not. It's not. Affirmation. Because that's what he's saying.
He's affirming things. Wow, I didn't know we'd get to Savage Garden. But where are we going? Oh, I'm up on a mountain. But then I'll be back down again, not with Darren from Savage Garden. Can't believe I remember his name.
Darren
But
Hayes.
thank you.
One of the greatest music acts of our time.
I'm sure he is. What am I saying? This is going to be fun for you to edit, isn't it? Can
Not
we
editing any
think
of this.
about what we're going to say? This is the terrible ending. Anyone who's ever listened to any of our other many, many podcasts knows that we're not very good at the old ending. But we're going to come back. We're going to do a general roundup. We're going to see how we feel after a few days as well. I think it'd be good to let it all
I might watch it again.
percolate. Yeah, I'd like to watch it again
Almost certainly won't.
as well. Mark.
No, I don't know why I said it because I almost certainly won't watch it again. But there we go.
Well, you're going to have plenty of time in your hands.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You'll probably be watching wrestling.
If anyone wants to send us an email, because we are doing a roundup of this, please get in contact. We never actually... We've got an email address.
We've had an email address for 5 years.
So basically, if you type in anything at thehoneymoonperiod.com, it will come to us. You can type in hello at thehoneymoonperiod.com. You can type
This is too complicated.
Type in right.
just
Send us an
say-
email at severance at thehoneymoonperiod.com.
That's a long one as well. That's a long thing to type. Why can't we just have like hello at thehoneymoonperiod.com?
I said that and you
Did
shouted
I?
at me. Yes.
Did I? I think I was worried that the podcast was going on for too long and that you wouldn't edit all of my terrible things out.
I'm absolutely not.
Oh, please don't.
I'm repeating them.
I'm very scared. Just
It's
let
like you
everyone
double
know.
down on them.
Let everyone know. I'm really scared because I've edited the podcast for 1 billion years, and I'm letting Mark loose on the edit because I won't be here. So now I'm terrified that it's going to have all of my bits in.
Last time I edited the podcast,
Mm.
I put in a bit of music rather than the trailer because I just thought, well, I fancy doing a bit of music from a film rather than the trailer. When we used to do
Yeah.
integrated episodes,
Yeah.
and you texted me to complain.
That sounds about right. I don't remember that. Anyway, good luck, Mark. I'll not listen to the edit.
You 100% will listen.
I won't.
You
I
will.
won't. I won't be able to. But yeah,
Yes.
thanks everyone.
Please send us an email at hello at thehoneymoonperiod.com or whatever you want at thehoneymoonperiod.com. And yeah, if you want to get in touch on socials, I am at Mark_Greg on Instagram.
And I am at Elaine G. Wrights.
Don't think that my account has nothing on it. I just don't post much.
He is there.
Yes.
He's there. He's lurking.
I just get memes from like millennial mates. That,
I like to send you reels of dogs.
I send you reels of dogs too.
I know. That's why we're married.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.